We're excited to have Mike here today to talk to us about ATV, UTV, and golf cart safety. This is a great topic because we got a lot of these vehicles around, don't we, Mike?
Yeah, there's a lot of these out on the roads, and we use these. These are handy utility vehicles that we use, and we're talking everything from your ATV, the four wheeler that you might use to haul stuff around, to that UTV that you might use to tow little your recreation crew, for example, might use to tow out the equipment to the softball fields or the football fields or whatever. Also, those little the 4x6s or the gators that we have out there that we use, that our parks crews or streets or roads crews might use to help haul some stuff around, and then the golf carts that we drive around the golf courses, and maybe in our other areas use golf carts to get around from building to building or whatever it may be. Because these are some pieces of machinery that sometimes we don't think about. Sometimes we don't think that we should really do something here around safety and make sure that we're operating these things safety, because it's super important. Okay, occupationally and recreationally, each year there are about 500 deaths and over 100,000 injuries. Now, this isn't in the trust. I mean, if this was in the trust, this would be really bad, right? But these are national numbers. 500 deaths, both occupationally and recreationally. So we're lumping some things in here with just going out, being a weekend warrior and going out to the dunes and whatnot. But it's still important to note that about 500 deaths and over 100,000 injuries every single year. But what about us here at the Trust? Okay, since 2020, so in the last 5 years, we've had 36 accidents involving golf carts, UTVs, gators, ATVs, that kind of stuff, these utility type vehicles that have cost us about $313,000. Now, there are some in there also that we went through that were $0 because there wasn't really anything that had happened, or folks chose not to continue and file that claim. So this number could have been much higher, maybe closer to even $500,000 in these ATV, UTV, golf cart type of accidents. So it's important to us here. These are things that we've really got to take a handle on. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover some of the operating components of your ATVs, your UTVs, and your golf carts, and how we can control those hazards so we don't become one of those statistics. The importance of pre-ride inspections and how we actually go through those to make sure that these pieces of machinery are operating at their best. Okay, and then we're going to talk about some very basic best practices for operation of the vehicles. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, there are different types of ATVs out there. Okay, there are sport ATVs. These sport ATVs, they're really, your speed and competition. They're the ones that look super aggressive, right? They don't have a utility rack on them. They're very minimalist. They look and they sound probably pretty aggressive. Okay, then you have your recreational ATVs. These are pretty functional and versatile pieces of equipment. They may have a utility bar on them. They may have a tow rack or something like that. But these are kind of your hybrid, your dual use type of vehicle. Okay. And then your other is your utility type of ATV. They're bulkier, they're heavier, they're more robust. These are probably the utility ATVs, are usually the ones that we want to go after here in local government. These are the ones that are going to do what we need them to do. They're going to have racks on them. They're going to have maybe a winch on them. They might be capable of sticking a trailer type ball and hitch on there, so that we can tow a little trailer around. The important thing here is we fit the tool to the job, much like we talk about with with hand tools and different kinds of equipment that we may have inside of our workshops. You want to fit the tool to the correct kind of job, okay? Because not every tool is fit for every kind of job. ATVs are the exact same way. We want to make sure that we fit the tool to the job. So what kind of terrain are we going to be going over? What kind of work are we going to be doing? Let's make sure that we match those things together. We're not using like a sport type ATV or even a recreational type ATV in a situation where a utility ATV is going to provide us much more functionality and be very, very safe for us. Okay? So the controls of your ATV, we're going to go through this here really in a little bit of depth, So I want to talk about each of these controls independently and how they correspond to helping us stay safe on these ATVs. Okay, so we're going to talk about handlebars, throttles, brake levers, clutch and gear levers, ignition switch, and what we call the kill switch. All right. So the handlebars is where you steer the ATV, obviously. Okay, many of the controls are located here on the handlebars. What's important to know here about the handlebars is we always use two hands. Two hands at all times on the handlebars on those grips. Okay? Don't ever just drive with one hand. Don't ever think, hey, we're on the ATV or UTV out here in a field somewhere. I could drive with one hand and use my other hand to text on my phone or find out what's going on with the weather. We want to make sure that we're always using two hands on the handlebars at all times. Okay, now let's talk about the throttle. Where that throttle is located is it's usually on the right handlebar. Okay, that right handlebar, that right grip, but it's a thumb-operated mechanism. Okay, now this is different than like a dirt bike or a motorcycle or something like that, which is a twist handle. Most of our ATVs, if not all of your ATVs, are going to be a thumb-operated throttle on the right-hand handlebar. Okay. Now, when we're using that throttle, we want to make sure we use smooth, even pressure on that, okay? Which means we don't want to feather. What I mean by feather is we're hitting that handlebar, hitting that throttle multiple times with our thumb, brum, 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 okay? Rather than just giving it a smooth operation and not feathering it so that we don't spin the tires or that four-wheeler doesn't jerk on us. Now, we'll talk about that, why that's important here in just a minute when we talk about power and things like that these ATVs have behind them. But just know, man, we really want to make sure that we have smooth operation on that throttle. This last year, my son, he went and got his ATV license. He's under the age of 18 or even 16, right? He's only 11. But here in the state of Utah, you can go online, you can take an ATV safety course, and then with a parent's permission and under parent supervision and guidance, after you've completed that course, you can ride an ATV or UTV or an ATV on your own. Okay. Well, we took him out there, and he took his little course online, and we're out there, and on Labor Day weekend, we're tooling around the campsite, and Parker's over there on his ATV. First time he's been on it, and rather than using the smooth pressure to go, he's feathering that thing. He's hitting it and backing off, hitting it and backing off. And what's it doing to him? God, it's jerking him up and down the road. Okay. Want to make sure we use smooth, even pressure. And we don't feather that throttle. Now let's talk about the brake levers. On the right lever, which is on your right hand handlebar side, that's going to control your front brake. Your left lever, if you have one, it's going to control the rear brake, and it'll be on the left hand lever. Okay. Your right foot pedal, you're going to have a right foot pedal down by your foot, and that's going to control your rear brake. So if you have the left lever, you could have a right foot pedal. If you don't have a left lever, you will have a right foot pedal. Okay. The right foot pedal is always going to be there no matter if you have the left lever or if you don't. Okay. So right lever is always going to control your right brake for the most part. Your front brake, excuse me. Your left lever is going to control your rear brake, while your foot pedal on the right side is going to control your rear brake. Okay, now let's talk about the parking brake. Okay, the parking brake on your UTV, on your ATV, it's going to be a flip lock that's located on your left lever. Okay, so what you have to do, you've got to pull that lever in, and then there's going to be a little lock. You take that little lock, and you have to pull it in with your left hand, take your right hand, reach over, and lock that lock into place so it locks those rear wheels up and set your parking brake. Okay, that's important because we talk about parking brakes. We want to make sure before we do pre-trip inspections and things like that, we always set the parking brake. Okay, whenever we shut the vehicle off, we always set the parking brake. All right, let's keep going here. Let's talk about the clutch and the gear shift. If you have a machine that is a manually operated transmission, okay, you don't have an automatic transmission or a CVT or something like that, that's going to automatically shift the gears for you, all right, you've got to do that yourself. Now, your clutch lever will be located, if you have one, if it's a manual transmission, it'll be located on the left-hand handlebar, okay? That's where you won't have the left-hand brake because you have the left-hand clutch lever. All right. Now, what the clutch lever does is it disengages the wheels from the powertrain and allows you to shift your gears. Now, when we talk about don't popping it, what that means is when you let that clutch lever out, okay, when you shift the gears, you start letting the clutch lever out, don't just drop the clutch. Don't just drop that handle, because either number one, you're going to kill the engine, or number two, you're going to pop a wheelie. Okay, especially if you're hitting the gas a little bit at the time. Okay, those rear wheels are going to spin, and you're going to pop that front end up. Okay, and we don't want that to happen because, again, very powerful. These things will tip over, and we'll talk about tip overs here in just a few minutes. But it's important to know the clutch lever disengages that wheels. Don't pop that clutch lever. And the gear shift. The gear shift will be located usually in front of the left foot peg. Okay. Now, when you kick the gears up, shift the gears up, you pull up on that gear lever. To kick the gears down, you push down, and that'll shift the gears into a lower. Just shift the transmission into a lower gear. Okay. But don't pop that clutch. Don't pop that clutch when we're shifting gears. Now, the ignition and kill switches. The ignition is either a key or a push button that activates the electrical system, right? We all know this. It turns the thing on. Now, ATVs have a very specific function, or a very specific switch here, and the function of that switch is to kill the engine, kill the motor, kill all the electrical current going on, and that's what we call the kill switch. Okay, it immediately shuts the engine off, and it's usually found on the left handlebar. Now, what you'll see here is, you can look here at the picture and you can see all kinds of different controls here. But all of our ATVs, they might not have the reverse override mode switch and a horn and a turn signal and a winch that goes in and out. But everyone will have a kill switch, okay? If your ATV isn't starting, make sure that the kill switch is disengaged, okay? If you push the kill switch in to kill it for some emergency type of reason, make sure you pull it out before you try and start the ATV. Otherwise, it ain't going to start. Okay? So that kill switch, great. It's a great function for our ATVs, because what it's going to do is it's going to immediately shut something off. So if there's a fire, if there's any kind of damage, if there's an accident, okay, sometimes these engines just won't shut off. Hit that kill switch. Make sure you get that engine shut off quickly. Okay? Let's talk about UTV controls. UTVs are more car-like. Okay, and they're more car-like in the effect of they have a steering wheel, they have brake pedals, they have gas pedals. Okay, they have a parking brake that's pretty much right there in the center console area where you would find your same parking brake in a vehicle. Okay, you just pull it and it sets the parking brake. Okay, many of these will have a key or a push button type of ignition. There's no kill switch on these. All right, they have a display, they have a gauge cluster, kind of like you do with your car. They're going to have a gear selector like you do with an automatic transmission in a car. Okay, so a UTV is very car-like in its control appearance. All right, same thing with a golf cart. A golf cart has very car-like characteristics. Okay, they have a steering wheel, they have a brake pedal, they have a gas pedal. The main difference here, though, in a golf cart is that your parking brake is located on your brake pedal. Okay. Now, what the parking brake is going to be, it's going to be in the upper left-hand corner of that brake pedal. And when you push that brake pedal in, you can then set the parking brake by pushing on that parking brake in the upper left-hand quadrant of your brake pedal. Now, it's important to note, when you push the brakes on a golf cart, don't hit the parking brake when you're just meaning to hit the regular brakes, because that's going to lock the wheels up. And it's going to cause the golf cart to probably fishtail on you. Okay, so make sure that we hit the right brake when we're using the golf cart. Golf carts are going to have a key ignition. Most of the time, they don't have a push button. It's going to be a key that you got to turn on. And then the lever that you're going to use to control the transmission, whether you're going forward or backwards, it's going to probably be located on the seat right below you. Okay, one way is forward, one way is reverse. Okay, that's another difference between your car and the golf cart. But again, golf carts, UTVs, they're much more car-like. There's something we're used to, something we do every day. Steering wheel, gas pedal, brake pedal. Okay? ATV, are much different. There's many different controls, thumb operated, hand operated, foot operated, all sorts of different things that we've got to be aware of. ATVs they have a unique design, and because of that, we get risk because of that. They have wide, low-pressure, knobby tires, which creates unstable handling on paved roads. They have a fixed rear axle, which means that if you have a paved surface, you'd lose a lot of control because the rear axle is fixed. It requires special riding skills when navigating and taking turns. It has a very powerful drivetrain with high and low gear ratios. This means they're capable of speeds that are way too fast for the conditions or an operator's skill level because they're so powerful. They have power to climb, and they're going to keep climbing until that thing flips over backwards. If you keep giving an ATV gas on an inclined hill, and the hill keeps increasing, and the slope keeps increasing till you get above maybe 15 degrees, that ATV is going to try to keep going up that hill until it flips over, okay? They have a high ground clearance and a very short and narrow wheelbase. What does that risk, though? It means that there's a minimum size and weight requirement required to balance the vehicle. Make sure you check your owner's manual so you know what the specs are in minimum size and height and weight in order to make sure that we have enough stability on that vehicle. And again, the seat on an ATV, we all know this, the seat is on top of the vehicle. And what does that do? God, it creates a really high center of gravity. Okay, it means we got to maintain our balance in that when we're driving that machine. And if there is a crash or a rollover, there's no protection for you. There's no cage like in a UTV. There's no cage like in a car or a golf cart. Okay, it's just body meets road. Okay, so we've got to make sure that we operate those machines very, very carefully because there are many hazards that come with operating ATVs and UTVs and golf carts. Stability, speeding, terrain, rollovers, and then really operating any of these pieces of equipment on paved roads. Okay, let's talk about each of these just for a minute. Now, as we look at the terrain, you got to make sure you're aware of the terrain that you're driving on. Many of the times we're taking these ATVs, UTVs, and even sometimes the golf carts on unpaved and unmaintained roads. Okay, things with holes and ruts where we may be crossing trees, stumps, and large rocks that may be invisible because we're driving in a weed field. Okay, fencing and wires that may be downed or along the roadways we've got to be aware of. Creeks, culverts, and streams. We drive in areas where some of these natural landscapes affect where we're going to be where we're going to be going. So make sure that we are operating our machines in the terrain that we're very familiar with. Rollovers are the most common type of accident and incident that happen with ATVs, UTVs, and golf carts. Okay, they're mostly attributed to altering the center of gravity within that golf cart, that UTV or ATV. Now, why do we alter the center of gravity? It's because we drive too fast. Okay, we're driving too fast, and when we try to make a turn, when we're driving too quickly, that center of gravity has shifted from inside the vehicle, inside those four tires. And when we make a sharp turn and going too fast, what happens is that center of gravity moves outside of where it's of those four tires, moves outside, and that's what causes that rollover accident. Okay. Also, we've got to make sure that we maintain a standard of not overloading these vehicles. Make sure we look at the owner's manual and know how much these vehicles can take as far as loading goes. Because if we overload the vehicle too much in the rear, what's it going to do? It's going to shift that center of gravity to the rear of the vehicle. So if we go up any kind of incline and we hit the gas just a little bit, those rear tires are going to spin, and then it's going to want to tip over backwards on us. Okay, and we have to. A lot of these rollovers are also contributed because of alterations and modifications that we make to the vehicle by shifting, again, the center of gravity away from where it should be into another area so the vehicle rolls over very easily. Now, how do we prevent rollovers? Well, we only want to, if we're going to go up an incline or up a slope, 15 degrees max. We shouldn't go up a incline that's more than 15 degrees on any ATV or UTV, because remember, these machines are very powerful. They have very powerful drivetrains. We hit the gas and it's going to want to keep climbing and going up that hill, even if it's a greater than a 15-degree max incline. Okay, so 15-degree max incline only, 25-degree max side slope. Okay, again, they're powerful. They balance. If you as the rider, you can balance. You can shift your weight to one side and try and balance that out. But a 25-degree max side slope, that's the highest we should go. Never exceed the weight limits that's been put on there. So we've got to know what the specs are of our ATVs. And using only manufactured approved accessories and watching our speed is going to help prevent those rollover accidents from happening. Now, let's talk about paved roads here for a minute. ATVs and UTVs are specifically designed for off-road use. Now, we see them all the time out on the roads, that they're out there driving, they're street legal and things like that. They put their turn signals and they have a horn and that kind of stuff. But again, remember, they are specifically designed for off-road use. We should not be using these vehicles as like a daily commuter. We shouldn't be using them inside of our organizations to drive around and go pick up donuts in the morning. Okay, these are really only used for off-road use. They're more difficult to control on paved roads because they have a lower tire pressure. Their steering is very different, and remember we talked about their suspension is different. They have a fixed rear axle, okay, which makes it difficult to control on a paved road. When we're crossing a paved road, always cross that paved road at the most direct route. Okay, don't drive on the road for a while and then cross the road. Okay, cross that paved road as quickly as possible and get back on the off-road where those tires and the suspension can actually help and do work for you. Golf cart injuries, we see a lot of these. Okay, unfortunately, we see a lot of them. They're due to rollovers and getting in and out of the cart while it's moving. Okay, we see so many of these. Driver losing control of that golf cart and something happening. And because these things are very, very flimsy and very squirrely, okay, we see ejections. We see people getting ejected out of the golf cart. So how do we prevent these type of golf cart injuries? Well, number one, no motion until all are safely seated. No standing in or on the golf cart. Okay, those things I think should be self-explanatory, right? But we see it all the time. People jumping on the back, people jumping on the side, and they're taking off on the golf cart while they're still getting inside. Okay, only drive on designated paths for these golf carts and operate it from the driver's side only. How many, like, I know I've done this before when I've been playing golf though. You're sitting there in the passenger seat, your golf partner gets out and goes to hit their shot, and you're like, okay, let me drive over to him. So you put your foot on the gas and use your left hand, and you drive over. Okay, let's not do that. Only operate these golf carts from the driver's side. Okay, how do we prevent golf cart incidents? No cell phone use. Okay, you might think, I'm just on a golf cart. This isn't a big deal. I'm not on a paved road or on a city street. I can use my cell phone. Not the case. No cell phones. Okay, no headphones. Now I know this kind of strikes you a little bit because some of us, they work and you have headphones in and things like that. But let's not have headphones in when we're driving golf carts. We need to be able to hear stuff in our environment, things that are going on. Avoid excessive speeds and sudden maneuvers with your golf carts. And just drive straight up and down the slopes. But the number one rule that we can do to prevent golf cart incidents is to keep your arms and legs inside the golf cart. All right? Don't let your left leg hang out the side of the golf cart when you're driving. We have seen a number of injuries. Over half of the injuries that we saw on golf carts were because somebody was sticking their arm or leg out the left-hand side as they're driving and letting it dangle there off the side, and it hits a pole, it hits a rock, it hits something, it hits a tree, and they get hurt. Okay? So keep everything inside the cart at all times. Now, pre-trip inspections. Make sure you inspect before each ride. Consult your owner's manual for the specifics of what you should look for, and make sure we set our parking brake. When we do these pre-trip inspections, what we should do, we should document these things. And think in this acronym here: START and GO. Well, we're first going to check, we're going to check the steering and the drive system. We're going to check for leaks. We're going to check our handlebars and the footrests and shake them to make sure they're nice and secure. We're going to check the throttle and brakes. For the throttle, make sure it moves smoothly and snaps closed when we take our thumb off it. On an ATV, the throttle should then snap back into idle if we hit it. So we want to make sure that it does that before we turn that vehicle on. Okay. Activate your lights if they have them. Turn on the headlights. Make sure everything works. Make sure you have your current registration, and make sure your OHV decal on your ATVs and UTVs is current. Check your tires. Always check with a low pressure gauge to check your tires on your ATVs and UTVs. Again, low pressure tires require a low pressure gauge. Make sure we check them and make sure the pressure is equal on all the tires, and don't exceed the design specifications. Check for damage that could cause air leaks. Check the lug nuts and make sure everything's nice and tight. Gas and oil, make sure you check your gas. Make sure your gas levels are good. And lastly, operate safely, ethically, and responsibly. Okay, so think when we do pre-trip inspections: start, go, steering, throttle, activate your lights, registration, tires, gas, oil, operate safely. Okay, PPE. Let's talk PPE for the last couple of minutes here. Always wear a helmet when operating ATVs and UTVs. Always wear a helmet when operating ATVs and UTVs. Long pants, long sleeve shirts, gloves, over the ankle boots, eye and face protection. When we operate ATVs and UTVs, these things should be required. Long pants, long sleeve shirt, gloves, boots, eye and face protection, and a helmet. Okay? No shorts, no short sleeve shirts. I know it's hot. I get it. But if we're going to operate these pieces of machinery, we need to protect our bodies with the proper PPE. Helmets are required for ATV and UTV use. We should require them as an organization. If you're going to drive the ATV, you're going to drive the UTV, you're wearing a helmet. Okay? Those helmets are DOT, Department of Transportation approved. They'll have a decal on them that says that. They can be full face or open face as long as they're approved. They should fit snugly and fasten securely. And you should probably replace these things every 3 to 5 years. Okay, 3 to 5 years, you should rotate out your helmets, or after they've had any damage to them. All right. Some general safety tips now. Always wear your helmet. Remember, always wear your helmet. Wear your protective gear, your PPEs. Avoid riding on the pavement. Practice and get comfortable with your ATV, UTV, and golf carts. Watch your speed. And this last one, age of 18 and over only can operate ATVs, UTVs, and golf carts in the state of Utah. And if they're under the age of 18, we can't operate ATVs, UTVs, golf carts. That's in our federal labor, in our child labor laws. Jason's done a fantastic webinar on that. Go to the 23-minute mark of that webinar, and you'll find Jason talking all about these child labor laws on why 18 and over only on our ATVs, UTVs, and golf carts. All right. Any questions out there? I know it's a lot of information. Hopefully it got some good stuff out there. Jason, anything for us?
Hey, if you've got a question or a comment, please type it into the chat box right now, and we'd be happy to see if we can stump Mike on a question. Good stuff. Hey, I want one of those Chong Sirius four-wheelers.
Right.
That's good stuff. Let's see. I don't see any questions right now. 23 minutes. Skip 23 minutes of my webinar?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good place to get started on that. I don't see any questions right now, Mike. You want to give us some final words on ATVs?
Absolutely. Yeah, ATVs, UTVs, golf carts. They are great vehicles. They are great utility things for us. They help us get things done. But dang it, we got to make sure we do it safely. Make sure you wear your helmets. Make sure you wear your PPE. Watch your speed and make sure you know what you're doing and what you're handling when you're going out to do it so we can stay safe.